This is the first episode of, I guess we're calling it the Great Games Podcast, which is basically what we used to do on XB Connect, if you guys can believe it, back in the day. Before Xbox Live, we had to go on XB Connect using a computer to play people on the internet.
With the Xbox,
but my name is
Xbox Live was Xbox, right?
Before Xbox Live was Xbox. So I'll introduce myself. My name is Travis Lisher. I like video games, obviously, but I also am a writer. I write screenplays, TV show pilots. We have other podcasts. This is my messy room here, the Great Games Podcast. We used to say at the beginning of every match, we used to say "Great Games," and in the title to try to get people to join us. So it's kind of
it was successful enough, right? Like I feel like we would get more than our fair share.
Right, and then and then GL, HF, good luck, have fun, and everybody had the etiquette until all the horrible N-words and other things started flying. You're just like, okay, we need to exit this. This is toxic, really terrible. But on the other end is my friend Christopher Daniels. I call him Cheese. I have since I've met him. When was that? We met during the Halo 1 days, right?
Yeah, that would have been 2003.
Oh my God, yeah. We met.
It sounded wrong coming out of my mouth, but once I was like, no, that's right. Yeah.
Yeah, he's you're in Texas right now, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I moved down here years ago now, 4 years ago.
Right, I'm in California still. That's where we met. I still live in the same approximate area where Cheese. That's what I'm going to call him because that's what I call him as my friend. Where we've lived this whole time, but I met him through Halo 1, through the LAN party. We had to get together in a house. We had to all play. And, that's where we met originally, right? Like, I went to your house.
Yeah, I mean, that was, I think so. Like, I think we knew each other through a mutual friend, right? Like, probably through Dan. No, you know what? Yeah, we met at your dad's apartment a few years prior. But I think our proper introduction, I remember the first time I got like a good impression of you, I went over to your house, and you and John and maybe Matt had all your computers set up together, and you were probably playing Battlefield 1942 or something.
That's right. Battlefield 1942. God, I remember that game. We used to set up all our computers and just kind of LAN them together because internet never worked back then. It was always like at best a DSL connection. So we always had the network with the big Ethernet switch. Oh my God, I remember Battlefield 1942.
Yeah.
Just get in the tanks and planes and roll around and never feel like you're doing anything.
Well, that was it.
That
was a time when like the most technologically advanced area, like where we grew up in Northern California, was pretty rural at the time, right? Like I know it's changed a lot recently, but at the time it was very rural. And the bowling alley was the place that had like the good LAN setup. That was how.
At Folsom Lake Bowl, is that what it was?
Yeah, we'd go down there and like play Counter-Strike and stuff sometimes, and then run out before they could charge us for it.
Oh.
Yeah.
No, I remember. I met multiple friends through Halo 1 actually. I met my friend Chad. Matt I met before that, but. I mean, really, the point here is that we met. A lot of us just met, having to get together, playing LAN parties through Xbox, through Halo 1 specifically, and I still say that Capture the Flag on Blood Gulch is the best mode, map, game type I've ever played of any multiplayer game ever, and I wish they would still let us play that on Master Chief Collection today, but it's hard. It's very difficult.
And you were, like before we met, I had played, this was Xbox and Halo was a phenomenon at the time, right?
Right.
And I had played it before meeting you, and I thought I was pretty, I was always someone who played games myself as well at home.
Right.
But pre-Trav, it was like,
yeah.
What I was playing was not the same thing that you were playing. Like as soon as I was introduced into the group, it was obvious that there was just a whole nother level of sort of competition and competency going on with what you guys were doing compared to myself.
I appreciate that. We used to have like a little boot camp for people who didn't know how to play, like because the beauty of Halo 1 was you can go in Blood Gulch, you can get in a Jeep, and even if you were okay with a pistol or not very good, or even my Uncle Dave got in a Jeep once, drove all the way, never plays video games in his life, gets in a Warthog, flies to the other side of the base, grabs a flag. We used to have a little boot camp for for flag getters. Like I would cover, I would shoot. I was very good with the sniper rifle. Sit up on the hill. I knew how to take everybody out,
Yeah,
get all the
right.
powers, and kind of right. And then we would teach them exactly the perfect timing of grabbing the flag, throwing it out the back
Oh, the
door.
swoop
You
move.
know, the swoop move. That's what. Yeah, we patented. We called it the swoop move, where somebody would jump in the base, throw the flag out the back door. The guy in the jeep would roll and jump out real quick, grab the flag, get back in while the jeep was still moving, and then loop all the way around and keep going. And we got so good at it that it
Yeah,
was just
I mean, it
you
seemed
could.
it seemed pretty clear it was unintentional. Like that
Yeah. Right.
Bungie at the time didn't deign to create the games that you could get out of the jeep, grab the flag, and get back in that quickly. But it was like one of the
Yeah,
great
it's like a
aspects of games of that time,
totally.
right? It was like
Yeah, it's like a great glitch that actually enhanced the game once you kind of
it
figured it
felt
out.
right when you did it, you
Yep.
know?
Yeah, it's
Yeah,
true.
yeah. So sorry.
And there was stuff. No, and you would flip the jeep and the jeep would propel you forward. There was lots of little tricks, little glitches. I keep calling it the jeep, the warthog, but
Yeah, I
jeeps,
mean that was
whatever.
that was the only vehicle you play with too, right? Like Halo
Yeah,
now
no,
is like
never.
this whole
Yeah,
menagerie of
tanks
yeah.
and the menagerie of ghosts and wraiths and all sorts of crazy stuff. But no, we only ever played with Jeeps very specifically, just because it was just a conveyance of getting the flag back and the strategy of it. And it was just it was like pure rules, like pure warfare.
Yeah, well, it was like
Um,
I think the
yeah,
modern sort of it was like a Dota map sort of before
yeah.
that was a thing, right? Like you had a very fixed rule. So break it down. What was the game? So it was capture the flag.
Yeah. So it was we used to play with MLG settings, like Major League Gaming settings. We looked it up online, but we were playing that before that. It was just like they had the official
Yeah, they came up with
uh,
MLG right around then, I think.
yeah, that was like brand new at the time, and we were trying to play tournaments and all that stuff. It was a big deal for us, but no, it was you had you start out with pistols and one jeep each, and then it would be you'd have to get the flag back in order to score. That was the big one. I hated
Right,
if you could
right,
take the
right.
flag and
No
and
two
and still
flags.
score with exactly right. So. And it was just and those particular rules, and we played all the time, and all the tournaments played like that too. So it wasn't just, that was kind of like the gold standard. And I just don't really understand why Bungie has decided not to let us play Blood Gulch at all. Like, I feel like people out there, like, there's a big group of people who love Blood Gulch more than anything. Like, that is the map. And especially Capture the Flag. I feel like Capture the Flag has gone by the wayside just in general in games, right? Like, not many games have that as a game type.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it all yeah, that's true, right? Like the flag has been replaced by something. Like in Destiny, it's like an orb or something like that. So I think it's moving past gaming's simple roots into or something like that, which I think is
Right.
not necessary. Like there was some beauty to the simplicity of just sort of the
Right.
boiled down essentials of that game mode of the two cars, the two jeeps, the two
Yeah.
flags, two teams, two bases.
Heavily balanced, too, because everybody had the same
Yeah,
stuff.
yeah, it was a
Except the
sport.
sides were different. You could switch off the different sides, but by and large, stuff was in the middle. You had the same stuff. You had the same sniper rifle, the same power ups that you could try to get to.
There was no
Um, but
abilities.
well,
You ran,
right, no
you
abilities.
punched,
You
you
just ran.
shot.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Back in our day, we had to run. We couldn't. Yeah, we had no jetpack or
Yeah,
any
right.
of such
There was no
bullshit.
movement
Yeah,
abilities. There wasn't,
yeah,
and again, like it was a sport. It was less of a video game and more of a mode that
yeah,
we played other
yeah.
stuff
It's like an
too.
esports before that.
Yeah, right. We would
Yeah,
play
that's true.
other modes as well, but it just nothing
That was the
stuck
big
like
one.
that.
Yeah.
But we would, I mean,
And
yeah. But
no, I was just gonna say Destiny, for instance, what you mentioned earlier with that one specifically only has the ball in the middle, right? You have to get. There's only one. Like you don't have bases, and it's not like symmetrical. You just have to go right out in the middle. If I remember correctly.
yeah, I haven't played in a while, but there's like there's some territory type stuff now too, I think,
Right.
and there's like dunking the ball, yeah. But I don't know, that game never quite
Oh, that
feels
dunking
right.
it. Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah,
No, yeah. I mean, I like Destiny as much as the next person. It's, I mean, there's a whole nother podcast just on what they're doing now with it and the Stadia and that whole thing. But,
Yeah, that's
um,
interesting, right?
yeah, it's very interesting. To segue to that for a second, I've been hearing this no latency thing for a million years, but my biggest concern is if I have decent internet above 35, Mbps or whatever, will it be responsive? Like, will there be any lag time from my controller to the game? Will the game have any lag at all? Because if it has any lag at all, it's a deal breaker for me.
Well, it was interesting. Did you
Um,
see that the way that they're trying to handle some of the wireless lag, that the controller's actually syncing
Going to the server,
back
right?
to your router instead of syncing to
Oh,
some
right.
intermediary? Yeah, I mean it's all technical. It's all going to
Yeah.
be the technical execution of it, basically, right? Like
Sure.
if it
Sure.
works, it works. If it doesn't, it doesn't. And I don't know that what was there was a service like less than 10 years ago that tried to do pretty much the same thing, right, with less capital than Google. I forget what it was called, On Live or something like that.
I don't remember that. I remember Square Enix had Shinra. They tried to use like cloud gaming with Shinra tech, but that didn't go anywhere.
Yeah, and I think in like
But
Japan, Nintendo does some of that. Like you can stream
yeah,
certain games to your Switch in Japan, so it's happening. It's just
yeah, yeah.
is a company with Google's resources, can they really do it?
Right, and then they had the PlayStation on PlayStation 4, right?
Mm-hmm.
PlayStation Now didn't that works? I played Nino Kuni on that, which wasn't the most responsive, but it was pretty close. And for that game, it was fine. It wasn't like it wasn't like it's an RPG, so it's not you don't need any kind of precision
Right.
aiming or anything like that for it to matter. So
Yeah.
so that was okay.
Yeah, I mean, I think the most interesting stuff to me are the parts that or the types of games that they think they can accomplish exclusively on this platform due to
Right,
distributed computing or whatever, right? Like being able to
right.
make some massive map or something like that you couldn't possibly stream on your home computer. They can do it on their servers or whatever.
I mean, we'll see.
Right.
We'll see. But,
Because yeah, right. Yeah, that you're right. It's a whole conversation in itself. It's just there can't be developers that are prepared to deliver on that right now, right? Their
right.
market is
And if it's
still
4K,
Xboxes.
if it's 60 frames per second, if it's HDR, if it's all of those things while simultaneously just being through the internet and it's perfect lag, then I'll eat my shoe on that one. But I don't
Yeah.
know. It's a hard one to believe. They've been saying this stuff. It's like the the game Star Citizen
Yeah.
that's out there right
Yeah.
now. That game is like a mythical beast at this point that's promising so much that I just don't feel like they have the ability to make it happen. It's like
the ultimate pipe
it's
dream.
like a it's the ultimate pipe dream, right? And I want it to be great so badly, but it never has a release date. It's never coming out. All these updates, they just make money off of it. And God, I want to believe that it's great. But there's a lot of pipe dreams out there right now.
Yeah. I mean, it seems to be the
gaming
flavor
wise
of
that
the
are just
moment,
like
right?
yeah,
It's
yeah.
the early release game that promises a lot. I mean, going back a few years now to things like DayZ, which just collected a ton of capital up front and sat in an unreleased state for 4 years. I went back to that recently and played a little bit more of that. We've played that together, I think, and it's
We played that one time. We couldn't find any people. I was like, "What's happening? Why?"
Exactly. Is this the game? Yeah, it's just in a perpetually unreleased state, which is I think they're in a version 1 now, I think, but
version 1.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah, they made it right, the big time.
We've done it. Oh dear God. Yeah, I mean, well, the reason why we started talking about Halo is I think that's the Halo 1 is the first. My first love in terms of multiplayer games, besides maybe GoldenEye or something,
Right.
something back in the day. But friendship wise, how many friends do you think you got through Halo 1?
Well, I mean, we've had a lasting friendship now here and found that common ground there. But it's like that whole everybody that you knew already that we ended up playing that game through, or I ended up meeting through that game. Kyle and Matt and John, your brother, and
That's true, right?
Chad. I never got that close to Chad, but
Right.
And then, yeah, I mean, it was building we had a whole community that, eventually we did everything that guys just out of high school were doing, right? Going to see, movies for 15 times in a row, and just whatever
Kill
else.
Bill Volume 1 we saw like 6 times. I remember that.
Exactly. But it was like the whole time throughout all of that, like, it was probably, looking back at it, it was probably like, well, it was the time between Halo and Halo 2 coming out. It was probably like 12 to 18 months or something that we really played it hardcore, but it felt like
it felt like a long went to mini tournaments. It felt like a whole different life type of thing, because everything was Halo 1, getting good at Sidewinder and Blood Gulch, and getting the timers just right, getting the power ups, and planning the next.
I was going to say, I think, which all sounds sort of antiquated now, like with the rise of MLG and esports and all that. Like, it's just sort of, I mean, there's kids have got their Fortnite coaches and shit now, right? Like, it's crazy. The whole world is in a different place.
Oh my god, I'm just gonna.
That was still a weird for us to like sit there and devote 12 hours a day to playing Halo was something that people would look at you sideways for back then.
Oh yeah, nowadays it's like my kid's playing Fortnite, that's just part of life.
Well, and they're in their homes too to some degree, right? Like they're high. You don't. It's easy to jump on your computer. It's easy to jump on a computer and record a podcast, right? But at the time, Xbox XB Connect, right? Like, we had to jump through. We played at your house.
So many hoops. Yeah. So many hoops.
We played.
But most of the.
Sorry, go ahead.
If we wanted to get together, we would need to bring CRT TVs, and they were gigantic, not like what we have now, of course. So we had to bring like multiple CRT TVs that were huge, multiple Xboxes, the Switch, Ethernet cables, obviously Halo 1, and sometimes we had to rent Halo 1 if somebody didn't have it or if somebody's controller was broken. Sometimes that little stupid dongle at the end of the controller, we didn't have one of those. You remember that? Yeah. The original Xbox, the worst. Oh god. So many, like, just going to Dimple Records or trying to find anywhere to just make this happen.
Does Dimple Records still exist? I don't even know.
It does. Wow. It's bigger than ever. It's got a bookstore now. It's crazy in Folsom. Yeah, Folsom, California.
Take that tower.
Take that tower. Yeah, Dimple's still going. But you can still find regular Xboxes and all sorts of stuff there. I'm not, nobody is paying me to say that, unfortunately, but. But there,
Dimple, your local store for all of your mass media needs.
Mass media needs. But the point is, you had to do a lot of effort to go and meet somebody at their house. You'd have to have a space to play. Somebody's parents would have to let you do it, or somebody's girlfriend would be there and be like, yeah, go ahead. So the best case scenario would be like going to Chad's house, and Chad's girlfriend would actually play with us.
Right.
Then you get the best of both worlds. But man, we got so into it, and getting those flags, like having a game where it was like 2-2 or something, and the game's going 45 minutes long, and somebody's got the flag, you both got the flag, you're in a standoff, you have to kill the guy with the flag in order to score with your flag. That stuff was some of the most intense stuff in gaming I've ever played. I mean, ever in my life.
We're coming back to it was truly a competition that was the rule set was very fixed. The number of variables, right? You had your pistol. Yeah. There was no assault rifle, I don't think, on the map, right? Yeah. Or did we just never pick it up?
Never pick it up. Yeah, just whatever. You just throw it away immediately when you got a sniper rifle or a rocket launcher.
Right. So sniper rifle, rocket launcher, and shotgun. Right. Like, it was, so your tool set was pretty minimal.
If you're going into the base, If you're going to the base, you got that shotgun. Roll in there.
Or the number of times.
My brother John would just sit in the base with a shotgun like a dick. Oh my god. Yeah, you get pissed off and shoot his name in the wall, just get bored, and then eventually would kill us when we come in the door.
Well, and every once in a while someone would. So you had. Through the center of the map, you had a few little like hills and rises and stuff, right? That would seclude you on your approach. And then there were sort of large. So the map wasn't totally symmetrical, though. Like, we've kind of talked about how everything was balanced, but the map wasn't symmetrical. There was definitely the blue base and the red base had different aspects to them.
Yeah, I mean, they had for instance, on I don't remember if it was blue or red at this point. It's been a while. I need to get back into it. I want to keep playing, but you can go on up the left side, and it would be like a big walkway up there. Both sides had like a walkway of sorts, but one was closed off, one was
Right.
not. Both sides had hills, kind of. Yeah, it wasn't asymmetrical, but they both had their little benefits.
Right.
So it wasn't like one was cheaper than the other.
I think one was a little bit closer to the rocket. One was closer to like a power up, right? Like an invisibility.
Yes,
or
right.
And then there were like, anybody who's played an older game that has a teleporter in it, you could telefrag people.
Block.
Right?
You could block the teleporter. Yeah, that's the best.
Or sit right behind it and wait for someone to come through it and bump them on the head like right away.
Yep.
Right.
And the screen would turn bright white, and then you just time it perfectly, whack them on the back of the head.
That's right. That's right. Stuff that nowadays I'm sure would get like tested out in the
totally.
Right? But at the time it was just another thing to build a strategy around. Right?
And 4 people would complain. 4 people would be like, "That's too cheap," and then they'd be like, "Oh, to the Q&A. Oh God, get it out of there."
Yeah.
Like Destiny would change that in 2 seconds.
Right, I think so.
At this point, which is unfortunate. But...
Yeah, I mean, it's just it's when your market is. I'm sure that game, despite everything that it eventually cloned, like there was a relatively few people playing that game like we were playing that game.
Oh, I'm sure. Yeah, I'm sure it was a very niche community. That's why it felt special to us, at least. And I still run across random people out in the world who like XP Connect, Blood Gold's Capture the Flag. I just random people in this area. Right. So I mean, it's not like it's nobody played it, but yeah, I mean, by comparison, of course, it's not even going to be close.
Yeah, there was just there was a whole not culture is not the right word, but there was a whole ethos that we built around all of it that like you said, like we would branch off into so we would jump on Xbox Live, XP Connect, right? So mostly we played from your house because setting it up wasn't just turning on the Xbox. There was no Xbox Live at the time.
No.
And so you would have to like branch your network connection out to your Xbox and then use your computer as the intermediary source and connect the 2 computers together by IP, and then the Xboxes thought they were on a LAN together, right?
Right. You're tricking it to assume that the person's in the same room with you.
Exactly. And so, we jump on there, and the majority of what we played was that was always what we wanted to play, right? We'd run into people, teams of people that everybody would have their own preference. Some people liked playing, Capture the Flag. Some people liked playing Slayer, but that was our default. Was like, okay, if you took one on your game mode, then come and play our game mode and try to take another one because you're not going to, right?
Yep. And everybody who was so good at Slayer just sucked so hard at Capture the Flag every time.
Yeah, that was always like, you would get the rare occasion where there'd be someone who would branch sort of modes and be effective at multiple modes. But yeah, for the most part, it was like
it was rare.
One or the other. Rare. And people wouldn't want to play because it took so long. But to me, it was like it didn't matter, right? Like I'd much rather play one 40-minute round that was like real give and take than play, 10 4-minute rounds.
It's true. And because even if you got one game in the night, it's like a 45-minute epic match, typically. And so it was worth it even to do the one rather than like a bunch of little Slayers, But
we'd build up rivalries with people, right? Like
we did.
The King of Aces, or I remember there was one team that was like the Ace of Spades or something.
Yeah, there was like Team Mob, something like that, and then like oh God, what was the other one?
Your player base
Koala Ownage, I think, something like that. Yeah, we had specific people that we played against, and sometimes we'd meet up in real life. And I don't think our teams, our team specifically, ever like gelled when we went to an actual tournament. We were always so much better online, which was unfortunate in terms of the team aspect.
Well, we always had there was a rotating cast of people that would come into play, right? Like. I can't even. Rob was one of them, I know.
Yeah, my friend Rob.
And a couple of other people, but we, for the most part, it was like the core would be like you and me and Kyle and Matt and John sometimes, right?
Yeah. It just depends. John, he pretty much hated Halo, but he just play,
Because
just
we would not stop
I
pestering
don't know,
him to
just
like play. Come on, we need another
because we
mission.
wouldn't
Come
stop
on, come on,
pestering
come
him.
on.
Yeah, please, for the love of God, we need
Yeah, or
you.
would it be like, this is what we're
Um,
going to be shouting about for the next 2 hours, so you can join in, or
yeah.
yeah, just sit here and suffer.
Yeah, he likes sitting inside the base of the rocket launcher and really spoiling your plans whenever you try to get the flag.
Oh, he didn't spend, he
That
was
was his
going to
goal.
college and like actually paying attention. So I think he wasn't spending every
Well,
waking hour playing the game like we were.
I know, right? It's true.
Um, but we had a, but we had
But
like
okay,
a
go ahead.
scoreboard and everything, right? Like, do you remember that we
We did.
tracked for?
We had a little whiteboard, not like this one back here, but it's just like we tracked how many games we won. The unfortunate part of that was the host aspect of it. The host and joining, like the
Yeah,
lag was never great, so we never really knew like who was actually good or not. Sometimes people had amazing connection. Sometimes we joined their connection, But that was a kind of a crapshoot. My internet was never great, so I mean, other people I'm sure had amazing
I
internet
mean, yeah,
at the
it was
time,
just the reality of doing it at the time. It definitely, yeah,
especially when you're tricking the technologies.
right,
Yeah,
right, yeah. It definitely would feel
right.
different in person, but you got used to it one way or the other, right? Like,
That's true. Yeah. You could compensate. That was the good part about it is the lag wasn't inconsistent all the time, so you could kind of compensate for the bullet lag. You could see that if it was like a second, not a second behind, but like half a second behind or
right.
whatever it was, you could start shooting ahead and you can kind of gauge it.
Yeah,
So even if you had a bad connection, you could still get used to it and compete, which was pretty unique. And I haven't played a game since then that's kind of like
yeah. I
that.
don't. It was. I think
You know.
it was having to do with the fact that the game wasn't built to be played on the internet, right? So it was like it didn't try
Right.
to. It didn't try to address the lag in any way. It wasn't expecting any sort of lag, so it
No,
was
it was
just like it
just
was
yeah.
immediately evident if there was a certain amount of lag, and you just could adjust or not,
Right.
decide to not play if it
Yep.
was just too much.
If it was, yeah, sometimes it was just too much and people would just quit all the time. But you know, we just always had to play it out. I don't think we ever quit. It was just like a miracle that the thing even worked to begin with.
It didn't stop
So
us.
we would
We spent a lot of
didn't stop
time
us.
playing, getting into it, right?
That's right. Right. Well, I mean, I kind of want to do a whole podcast on getting like all our friends together and talking about how we met via Halo One and Xbox, and talking about LAN parties and how the social aspect of it. And nobody leaves their house anymore. Everybody's online now, so the fact that you would go to a friend's house and play is like an archaic
Yeah,
thing.
and
But I kind of feel like we should do a podcast, like get everybody together, get all the people who met through video games through Halo, and kind of talk about it, talk about what that means, talk about if
I
it's
think
if it's something we've
we have to
lost or if
start
it's
that
just
off with a game of Halo. Everybody's got to pick the controller back up and remember what it's like to play, and then
that's right.
we could sit down and
Gotta
go,
be great.
remember when you were good at this?
I know, and then we could all yell and scream, and maybe we'll record it. That'll be awesome.
Yeah, I like it.
But yeah, beyond that, the funny part was we were actually Halo One just had to come up because that's kind of like our favorite game. That's what got us into multiplayer games really, and that's what made us be friends.
Mm-hmm.
But really, you told me originally. I want. Did you see the new Death Stranding trailer?
I
And we
did.
have to talk about it.
Yes.
I was like, no, not yet. And then I watched it and I was like, what the fuck? And it was great. Metal Gear Solid 5 was, I mean, one of the most convoluted, ridiculous, nonsense things I've ever played. That was amazing. I mean, the game is
Right,
amazing.
right.
But the story and the universe is just like I'm just like I couldn't deal with it. It was so crazy, flaming whales and whatnot. And there are whales in Death Stranding, by the way.
I was about
But
to say, well, this is going to be a total 180. No.
yeah, I don't know. It's gonna be like the same thing. But this seems like it's more. This doesn't seem like there's gonna be like giant gaps in storytelling.
Right.
Like I feel like and the other thing is the most important aspect of this is a brand new game, a brand new experience, and
It's a
that having
strand
being convoluted
experience.
and weird. A
Yeah,
strand.
yeah.
Kojima's so weird, but I love him. He's just the mad genius. That's just like every time he does something, it's just like you just kind of shrug and go, okay, let's do it.
Yeah,
Um,
he's like really prolific on Twitter, and I don't, obviously English is not his first language, and I think that
right.
there's some aspect of that that comes through in the tweets, but Also, I kind of just think he's got a pretty good handle on the English language, and he just likes writing weird stuff.
It's just he just likes doing weird everything. I mean but the point I'm trying to make is the fact that it's a new original experience and it's not beholden to the weird part about Metal Gear Solid is it started off making perfect sense to me.
Right.
Like it was weird, but it was like a good solid story, good solid movie. Like you could make Metal Gear Solid 1 into a movie and that wouldn't be beyond comprehension. Like it would,
that's a good point.
It makes sense. It makes whole sense. And then it gets progressively kind of weirder from there. And then with Metal Gear Solid 5, you're just like, okay, from where we started to where we are now, it's completely different. So you have this kind of this negative aspect of it, like, oh, I wanted this big story like Metal Gear Solid 1, but it's just so crazy. But with Death Stranding, it doesn't matter. There's nothing before it. So the craziness is great because I don't have any expectations.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I mean, there's nothing, you can expect with Kojima that there will be a beginning, middle, and end to the thing at least, because he doesn't have to try to tie it into somewhere else, or he's not worried about, whether the beginning of the next story is going to fit in with the end of the last or what have you. I mean, I'm sure he's probably planning some sort of sequel, but regardless, I have a feeling that there's going to be a complete story like you said there was in the first Metal Gear Solid, I think.
Right. Die Hard, man. I just cannot believe the guy has the balls to call a character Die Hard, man. It's
essentially it just seems like he's doing the video game equivalent of what we're starting here with this podcast, right? This is an excuse to get together and talk as friends, and it seems like he just wants an excuse to put Mad Mikkelsen in a video game.
That's right. No, him and Norman Reedus were just friends, and they're just like, we got to get paid for this.
Yeah. Which is, I mean, fantastic. I'm ready. I'm strapped in. I'm in this passenger seat. Drive me off the cliff. I want to see what happens.
Have the car explode on the way down, and then on the way down, I'll get caught by, or my car will flop onto a giant flaming tortoise, and then that'll flop onto a giant whale, and then you'll somehow survive it.
And everything that we've talked about so far, there's no indication of what the game is going to be like, and I truly don't know what the game's going to be. I mean, it is a video game, and we know that the movie part of the video game is going to be outlandish and filled with real life, the likenesses of real life people. But the game, I honestly have no idea. Although I think I'll like it.
Yeah, I mean, there's aspects of building. We saw him build the little ladder in the last trailer, and then there's obviously shooting in it. I saw him shoot some things, and you can punch some people with your little briefcase. I feel like it'll be more like Metal Gear Solid than you think it would. There's a bridge baby. I love it in the Japanese one. It's like bridge baby. It's like still an English thing that they do.
You gotta keep that. It's very integral to the experience that it's called bridge baby, no matter the language.
Yeah, exactly. That and you get the deluxe edition or whatever it is, and you get a real life, or not a real life, but life-size bridge baby.
I think that may be the only collector's edition I will ever own, or I ever have owned. I've already told my wife.
Have you already pre-ordered that?
That's the one I'm buying, and she was like, "Why does it have to be the baby?" And I said, "Of course it has to be the baby."
Yeah. Oh, it's Kojima. It's got to be the baby. Of course. And I love how Guillermo del Toro and the other director, however you say his name, Nicholas Winding Refn or whatever. I like how they're both in it, like the way they look, but not their acting, which is fine. It's just kind of funny. I love Guillermo del Toro, I really do. He's one of my favorites.
It seems like it's going to be a cast of characters.
It's a perfect marriage. A cast of characters.
It really is.
And. Okay, the multiplayer aspect of it I was going to ask you about. Do you think that's going to be like Dark Souls? Where you just...
That's sort of like the impression that everybody's giving, right? Is that you're going to sort of pop in and out of other people's worlds. That's the Strand system or what have you. Right. But I'm trying to stay in the dark about it to some degree, which is...
You don't even want to know?
I want to be surprised. That was part of what made Metal Gear Solid 5 such a unique experience for me, is that I played all his prior games and enjoyed them, but I knew very little about 5 going into it. And so that whole multiplayer, I guess that's what I should say. That whole multiplayer system was interesting as well, right? Had this drop in and out aspect of like sort of asynchronous multiplayer.
Right. And to be fair, I didn't know anything about Metal Gear Solid 5 after having played it for like 100 hours.
I guess that's true, yeah. So maybe I just submersed myself in ignorance either way.
No, I think this one will have, more concrete information, even though Kojima's known for just like throwing things at the wall and, you either go with it or you don't.
Yeah.
I feel like this one he's trying a little harder with because it's like his break from Konami.
Well, yeah, I mean, yeah, right. Like for better or worse, we'll see. Was his brilliance only visible when it was contained, or will he truly shine brightest now that he's, all the chains have been removed? I kind of feel like, Bungie's a perfect example of a group that, like, now that they can just do what they want, it's maybe not as good as when they were actually constrained by certain limitations. George Lucas.
Well, he's got George Lucas is a good example of that. Right. That's true. He broke his own cardinal rule of special effects not ruining not overdoing story.
Yeah, I mean that's everything he's done for the past 20 years is about the special effects now, right?
True.
Like what happened?
That's true. I feel like he's going to revert and go backwards, but that's a whole other story. Well, Kojima's got the Horizon Zero Dawn engine now, right? So he's got a whole new engine playground to work with.
Decima engine or something like
that. Decima engine, that's it. Yep. And that engine was phenomenal. It's it's a great choice.
Yeah, I mean, I don't. I was talking to a friend about this, and he was saying, I don't know how he gets a game, puts it in another engine, and makes it look like all of his other games. But I think that's just like his director coming. I mean, ultimately, I think the guy's a director, and so it's like no matter what he touches, is going to have a certain look to it.
Death Stranding probably won't have the frame rate that Metal Gear Solid 5 does, like the silky smooth 60.
Right.
For better or worse, because I mean I didn't play that in 4K, but so I'm not really sure. We'll see, but it's going to look amazing no matter what. It's just a matter of if it's going to be, well, shit. Are we going to be able to play Death Stranding in Stadia at 60 frames per second in 4K and it's like I don't know.
Yeah, and I mean how much will that That's sort of one of the big topics right now, right? Is where how not is it just are you able to play the game, but how does it play? I think is something that there was never a comparison of do I buy this on Sega Genesis or Super Nintendo? Well, the frame rate's better. No, you just played it on whatever you had available to you.
They had their own games. Yeah, exactly. And they had their own games, and they had their own feel and their own type of sound. I mean, Sega sounds different from the SNES just in terms of the music.
And you didn't have blood on Super Nintendo. That was you would have the sweat drops or whatever it was, mucus.
Oh my God, Sega does what Nintendo don't.
Exactly.
The commercials used to be amazing.
So along the performance line stuff, have you seen any of the PS5 stuff that's sort of leaked out so far?
I mean, I saw that they were going to have a solid state drive. I saw that it was going to be backwards compatible.
They ran a demo of like what was it that recent Spider-Man,
right?
Yeah, and how
it's just like boom,
yeah, you're there.
And it's funny that they're using a last gen game to show that, but the solid state hard drives are where it's at. It's with I've known that for a long time. If we're on the cusp of E3 as it is now. It's June 7th at the moment, and we're about to get all sorts of crazy reveals in the next couple of days. Maybe we'll do another emergency podcast about that as it goes. Maybe we'll do multiple podcasts. Who knows?
Yeah, E3 is it's always an exciting time. But I definitely think I remember the end of the last console generation being really fun too. Yeah. I think the beginnings and ends are probably like a lot of things in life, but the ends of the generations are always you get it seems like just hit after hit that comes out and things just pushing the envelope all over the place. But it seems like performance, even more so. I think 4K was a pipe dream at the beginning of this last generation, but not so much anymore.
Yeah. No. But the Xbox One X really let me down. The fact that they were saying 60 frames with 4K, and I thought that was, they basically lied and said, oh yeah, all our games are going to have 60
Yeah.
frames with 4K with the $500 console, and that was not
Right.
true, not even a little. So I'm looking for Xbox 5 or whatever the hell it's going to be, Xbox 2, to to actually
Two. Yeah.
go next gen to the point to actually go next gen to the point where that would be the case. And as a side note, by the way, to going back to Halo, I want Master Chief Collection on Xbox One to actually let me do my own games, select captions. Like I know they said that they're doing this, but please, for the love of God, let me be able to select Blood Gulch Capture the Flag and say it and have a custom browser for people to come and find it. I would be
This is
so
it. You
happy.
just snip this
Please.
out of the podcast. Throw away the rest of the last 40 minutes. And this is the only part that matters.
Yeah.
Microsoft,
The only part that
please
matters.
hear
Please.
our prayer.
Please, 343, let us play Blood Gulch. I don't understand like why in every game mode you can never play Blood Gulch on any of like the Halo 1 playlists. I'm like, do they not realize that it's like means so much to people? Maybe time and time again there's only like a
It's the
certain
only
niche group that
map that
plays
they
it, but
remake every
I don't
single
understand.
game, right? I feel like it's the
That's true. They have
yeah
remade it.
over and over again.
So
It's the
so
template
why would
for
yeah,
all outdoor multiplayer maps.
that's true. If there was a Smithsonian for multiplayer maps, that's got to
Yeah,
be in
that's
there.
up there. What it Catacombs from Goldeneye? No, what was it? It was like the library stacks or something. Um,
Yeah. Stacks rather than live. Yeah, there was. Oh
Final
God, now you got me
Destination.
thinking about multiplayer maps.
No equipment for
Aim
Smash
high.
Brothers.
Woo. Smash Brothers. Oh no. Um, yeah, I was never a huge. Well, which Smash Brothers are we talking about?
Melee. There's someone out there right now. If
Oh yeah,
they're
Melee's the
listening
big
to
one.
this,
Yeah,
they're
Melee's
going to
the big
kill
one.
us for not knowing these details because that community is so into. Um,
It's always just default wise, it's always Melee.
right.
That's the
Right.
passionate one, I think. But I was never like I wasn't competitive in Smash Brothers. I played them and I love them. I just
Yeah.
I'm not that familiar, so I
No.
apologize.
No.
I apologize, the internet. Let us know. Um, yeah. Oh, do you want to talk about real quick the disappointment we had between Halo One and Halo Two?
If we
Like
have to.
that was like oh my god, it's part of the story, which is like I remember all the trailers, all of the music, all of the build up to Halo 2, and we were thinking, man, the next step we're going to be playing Halo 2 on Xbox Live,
Right.
and we're going to be able to play it without XP
Right.
Connect, and it's going to be this amazing game. And then we got it, and we were like,
Well, and now
no.
we're sitting here recording and talking
Yeah,
fondly about our experiences with the first Halo, and I kind of feel
yeah,
like what fools we were to think that, of course, they were going to change everything we loved because everything we loved couldn't
yeah,
possibly survive the future,
right.
right? Like
Mm,
there was,
yeah,
we wanted they weren't going to build in a marker, a erasable marker
a
board.
swoop move.
Yeah, right. The swoop move wasn't going to survive. They weren't going to keep it to 5 weapons. It was just like everything was going to change, and I
Yeah,
think what's so funny
dual
is we were
wielding.
sitting there just like grinning, going, "Oh man, I can't wait for more." And
Yeah,
then,
yeah,
ouch.
and it just yeah, and Halo 2, Halo 3, Halo 4, these are all good games in their own right. I have a huge bias. I'm going to tell you that right now. Obviously, you can tell. But like yeah, it was really probably one of the most disappointing things, at least in gaming, that I've
I mean, that was
between
up
Halo
there
2,
with
because I was like,
disappointing life experiences for sure. Yeah, at the time, it was.
it's just we don't have any that's how good our lives are, I guess, if that's our most disappointing
Yeah,
things. But
right. Yeah,
we
that's true.
don't we didn't have to go to war. Our war was Halo 1 and
Yeah,
2.
yeah. There's
Um,
white privilege
but
for you.
hey, that cross cultural barriers.
Yeah. Yeah, maybe so.
I know plenty of people. I know plenty of people who did not like dual wielding, who were very upset. Yeah, I mean it's a great game in its own right, and Xbox Live was great at the time for it. It was just like, man, they changed everything I love about it. From how I always said like the grenades felt like mush. You like throw like a mush
Well, and
pie at
like you said,
people.
that
Like it didn't
that
feel
game was
like
very highly
yeah,
regarded, right? Like we hated it, but
very
I mean,
highly
people
regarded.
people still look back fondly on that. Yeah.
Oh yeah, they say that that's the best for sure. So I mean, we were just the old fogies before that were kind of like, no, back in my
And they
day,
never
you know.
return. They sort of never return to form, right? Like we
Not
never
for
picked
us,
back
no.
up on 3 or 4 in the same way. I kind of feel
No,
like
it
3
was
was
never
a
the
little
same.
bit like the first game, but yeah,
Eh, yeah, the battle rifle and everything. It's just not. It's just that pistol, the Halo One pistol, is one of the best weapons in video game
hmm
history. It's just so unique. It's so
it's up
powerful.
there with like the
Um,
Quake rail gun or the rocket
yeah,
launcher or something, right? Like,
yeah, yeah. But it was so good to the point where any player of any type could have that pistol, and no matter what weapon the other team had, you had a shot, and that is a mark of a
yeah,
great video game weapon
and you
because
spawn with it.
right, 5 to the body, 3 to the head. And it was just every time like clockwork. Obviously, they had the overshield. That's different. But God, we even watched Red versus Blue at the time. The first season of Red versus Blue was one of
You
the
have to
was so
explain Red
great.
versus Blue because I'm sure. Well, I don't know. They're a big like they make
Well,
real
people listening to
stuff now,
this,
right? Like Rooster Teeth or whatever they
Rooster
are.
Teeth, yeah. Back in the day, it was just an internet thing. It was just Red versus Blue. You'd have to download it from their website like once every week, probably, or
Right.
whatever it was. We would sit there and be like, "Oh my God, it's coming! It's
Go
coming!"
get us.
And it was just so funny. And it was like all in Blood Gulch, and it was right up our alley. And I just remember
I have a
not really
DVD of
liking
that
it.
first season of that, by the way. Now.
Yeah, I remember. I think, yeah, I know. Yeah, you were the one. I was gonna say Kyle probably had one, but I think it was actually you who had the whole thing. But I just remember season 2 and season 3 and stuff. It got like crazier, and I don't know. I fell out of it probably because Halo 2 was out, and I'm sure they switched it up.
Yeah. Right.
Not their fault. It just evolved like Halo did, and just that season 1. That was like that was the shit for a
Yeah, I
long
don't know
time.
why those. Yeah, it just felt like everything sort of fit together correctly at the time. It is really. I'm really nostalgic about that time, as if nobody can tell.
Me
Yeah.
too. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's different because it was like something so powerful because it was the beginning of a new system, and it was something that only a small amount of people knew about and could actually do. Like who actually knew about XP Connect and to figure it out. It took a lot of
Yeah.
effort. And when you found people who were who were like minded, my gain's too high. I'm gonna figure that out. When you found people that were like minded in that way, it was just like a cultural thing where it's like you find out about this particular band, they're not popular,
Right.
and then you get together with a bunch of other people in the area. You're like, oh my God, we love this
Right.
band, and then the band gets super duper popular, and they change, and the same
Well,
thing. But this
like we
was
touched on,
yeah.
it
Go ahead.
would turn into, we both had a deep seated love for movies, and you ended
Yeah.
up in the past year getting married at the Crest Theater, but I remember going to the Crest
I
Theater
did.
with you and seeing,
Yeah.
God, what was this?
Primer. We
Primer,
saw
right?
Primer. Oh
A
my
great
God, I remember
movie.
that. We saw Primer at the Crest
Yeah,
Theater.
yeah, but it was,
God, I remember
yeah. I mean,
that.
everybody's got their keystones, right? They're sort of one of my favorite podcasts, which I don't know that they do anymore. Idle Thumbs, like they were all into adventure games. That sort of. I think those guys work on
Right.
them now, but yeah,
Yeah.
it was like sure, Halo sort of was a little bit of all of us that brought us together, but it also sort of permeated through everything, right?
Yeah. Yeah, it's true, and the cinematic nature of it, the music, it's stuff like that has made me want to write movies. And I write movies,
Mm-hmm.
and I write TV show pilots, and I try to make TV, and I try to edit videos, try to do all those things. I got to move to LA eventually and kind of
Don't do it. Don't do
get
it.
out
No, I'm
there.
just joking.
Well, if I want to work,
Sure.
but and but you're right. The point is the cinematic nature of Halo, I think, kind of permeated through the rest of that stuff too. So it was all like one big ecosystem. But I also I want to finish
Mm-hmm.
this off. If we do nothing out, if we there is a Halo TV show coming out on Showtime. What do you think about
Oh
that?
man, I didn't know. I I
Oh,
think that's I
okay. Well,
think
then here we go.
that's my homework for next week is to look up the
Yeah. So
Showtime show.
I am I am very hesitant about this. For one, because they never do anything video game related
Sure.
correctly, in movies or TV show, really. So that the track record is really bad. Um, I'm a. The one thing is, are they going to use the music? Because if they don't use the music for the Halo TV show, then you already lost me. That's half the battle right there. I mean, it's not half the. It's a big portion of the battle.
It'd be a Zelda TV show without the music.
Yeah, without the Zelda music, it'd be just. But they've done it before. Mario Brothers, Street Fighter, no music ever.
I feel like that was a different era.
So stupid.
Though. You know.
Well, it hasn't changed.
I mean, even Sonic has got to have the music now, right?
Does it though? It's got Gangsta's Paradise.
Yeah, I don't know. That looks awful.
Where's the music?
They won't use. Who knows?
Yeah. Where's the Green Hill Zone music exactly? The Sonic movie, by the way, which I have a Sega little cart, a box of Sonic sitting on my desk right now, ironically. But yeah, I was just like, it's not hard to screw up the Sonic movie, I feel like, because it's like, okay, you got Sonic's World, Green Hill Zone, Robotnik's taking animals, he's turning them into robots. Sonic's got to save the animals. And he's got this amazing music, and it's like perfect. And then they just put it in the real world. There's just Sonic, there's Gangsta's Paradise. None of it computes.
Sonic looks like, I don't know, an abomination of
an abomination
of the Ninth Circle.
Abomination from hell. Yeah. So and then and they're changing the way Sonic looks. So they're fixing it, but they're not going to fix the movie. I don't think. I mean, that's my
fingers
guess.
crossed that Master Chief has a helmet on in the show and is green.
Oh well, okay. This is what I was going to say for Halo. I liked it there. It's big budget. It's 10 episodes, and they seem to be taking it seriously like that. Like the writer and creator is God, what is his name? It's the guy who made the show Awake and some other shows. He wrote The Beaver. he's a great writer. So I was looking forward to that. I was like, okay, they got a real writer to do the show. Cool. But my problem is they announced first that they first said that Master Chief was going to be a main character, and then I said, yeah, and then I was like, great, he's got to be a main character, but they can't take his helmet off. And then I was thinking to myself, okay, cool. They haven't announced this yet, but they're probably going to get the guy who does the voice for Master Chief. I think it's Steve Downs, is his name. Because if he doesn't take off his helmet, why wouldn't they use the same guy, right? Yeah, but instead they announced that the actor who is Master Chief is this skinny white guy from Orange is the New Black. And none of it makes sense to me at all. And I know I haven't seen it, and I'm complaining before it's even out. Maybe he'll be amazing. Maybe he'll be the voice. Maybe maybe I'll like the direction of them showing Master Chief. But
well, I mean, I feel like you almost I guess my first reaction was like, yeah, of course he'll be the main character. But at the same time, I don't as the player character in those games, he sort of didn't have a lot of personality, right? Like you imprinted a personality on him to some degree. He had like a grand total whatever, 40 lines or something, and that was sort of the point, right?
Well, yeah, he was a man of few words, which is most of the best heroes are men of few words. But in this case, he sold, at least the voice actor, he sold every line that he had.
Yeah.
And that's the important part.
Yeah.
So it's that's why if he was just a side character, but it was like the emotional. He doesn't have to be the guy front and center saying all the words. He doesn't have to say everything. He doesn't have to be the main hero with it all. He can be there all the time without being, he can be like the
guiding light,
the bulldog. Right.
Yeah.
Like we're following the chief. He is the guy. He is the savior. We're going to follow him, and he kind of leads by example, maybe. Anyway, and again, this is all speculation. I'm not trying to dump on it before, but it's just the track record's so bad, and it just bothers me that
What's the likelihood it's going to be good?
Right, and there's a voice actor who does it perfectly, who is Master Chief, and they're not using him clearly.
Well, David Hayter would like to have a word with him. Didn't he get shafted?
Oh God. Yeah, I mean, I love Kiefer Sutherland, but man, David Hayter is Snake.
Right,
so great.
He is Snake, right?
Yeah, no, it's true. Again, I don't understand that either. Kojima's.
Well, I guess we'll have to see, right? But, I mean, yeah, I agree. It seems like the voice is that character. I guess that you're right. That's the pertinent point to pull away from this is the voice.
It's just a goddamn helmet without that voice.
Right.
And it's the music and it's the voice, and those are the important things. Obviously great writing, but these are the very important things that a Halo fan is looking forward to. And I'm just like the music guy, Marty O'Donnell, who does the music for Halo, some of the best music, not only in video games, but probably ever made on anything. Um, he's, I guarantee, not coming back to do the music for the show.
Yeah,
so it's like
he's not a part of Bungie or 343 anymore, right?
Yeah, right. And that was a big falling out too, which, whatever. But I hope they use the music. If they don't use the music, it's just this is what Hollywood needs to realize. And I had this fantasy myself that I would get into Hollywood and I would be the writer and at least a producer, maybe something like that. And I would make the first genuinely great video game movie because I would understand as a gamer and as a writer and as a film lover, I guess, right. Filmmaker, I would understand more than most people what makes the game special outside of it's just called Sonic the Hedgehog, right? Like what makes
it's not what because he's just all the blue, right?
Yes, it's not because he's just a wisecracking hedgehog. He's got this amazing music. He's got this world. Yeah, and like music, I would argue, is one of the biggest things for why games stick around 20 years later. I mean, there's a site called Overclock Remix where they do nothing but remix, video game music from the past, and it's just like there's such a huge community of people who just in their free time they just remix video game music. Video game music is so great. Like I know most people who don't watch video game or don't play video games don't care. They wouldn't notice. But if I orchestrated to you, like Zelda or any number of these games, and then put it in a movie or something, you would appreciate it as
I had friends walk
as a
down
classic.
The aisle to music from Zelda recently. I mean, there's no denying. I think at this point that like a great piece of, and there was something just like so elemental about that early game music, even up into Halo, right? Like it was just it wasn't just background noise. It was. Well, in a lot of cases, you were going to be listening to it for probably, 10 hours on loop.
Hours
too,
and hours.
Right?
Right. So it had to be memorable. It had to be catchy. And it had to convey the tone and the emotion of what the little 8-bit graphics couldn't, or the 16-bit,
right.
And it's just, half of the nostalgia of Halo is in that music. You start the game up and the chant comes out and, the monks, and then that music kicks in right when the Jeep's going nuts, and it's like
oh, sorry.
Yep. No, exactly. So and it's just so perfect in that way, and I'm like, I want to convey that feeling that I get when I think about Halo with that music. I want to convey that to an audience watching a movie or TV show, like that thrill that you get when you hear that music when Master Chief goes and does something. In this case, it wouldn't be you as the player. It would be watching Master Chief specifically go do something heroic with that music.
Right.
It's just something that you can't put a price on, like Chrono Trigger, if they ever made that into a movie or show. God, I just, again, my fantasy is to be the guy who made this happen. But I would start with the music. And I would start with the music, and I would build the tone around
and you already have it
expecting
there, right?
that we're going to use
like it would just be about like you even that's what's great is you've already got that callback. You've already got people's heartstrings. You just start with that, like you said, right? I think I'm just agreeing with you adamantly here.
Right. Yeah, and it's a big key. I mean, did you watch the Castlevania Netflix show?
Yeah.
So season 2, they used Bloody Tears from Simon's Quest, and I gotta be honest, the emotion I had just for that moment, like I was like, finally, they're finally doing it. It's
a good show too.
It's a really good show, and it's got one piece, one piece of music. There's so much music in Castlevania that they could use.
Yeah.
But the point is, they used Bloody Tears at the pivotal moment, and it just enhanced it so much. And it's like people who don't know what it is, they're like, "Ooh, that piece of music's really awesome." And it's like, yeah, no shit. It's been 25 years or whatever it is that, it's been this amazing thing. It's been remixed 100 different times.
Well, there's just going to be the next Square Enix weird ass sci-fi production of a game that was originally set in a medieval era. And they're going to misuse all of their, I mean, they own all that stuff, and they're going to do whatever they want with it again. It's just, it's a misunderstood, like, I agree. Like, it's almost like they don't get their audience to some degree, or
What part of Square Enix? What do you
just
mean?
just just game companies in general, and like the
Right.
fact that you talked about OC Remix or whatever, right? Like I feel like at any
Yeah.
one time the top 10% of that stuff, or 10% of all that stuff is going to be Final Fantasy music or something like that, right?
Sure.
And
Yeah. Chrono Trigger, Final Fantasy, Mega Man 2, stuff like
yeah,
that.
and where has that stuff? I don't know. Maybe I'm speaking out of turn now. There's probably huge followings in Japan where this stuff has got is mass, is multimedia, and is all different sorts of stuff. But I feel like there isn't a lot of shows,
New
or there
music.
was music, or shows or movies, or especially when that back 10 years ago, 15 years ago, when that series was so big, right? Like it, and
Hmm.
the music is the keystone of that series. You
Right.
the stories are there and they're important, but again, it's nothing without the music.
Right. And the best, um, well, so I have two things here. One is for I think Square's finally done what we all wanted them to do with Final Fantasy VII, the
Mm-hmm.
remake. Um,
Which part? Part
I
one?
think. Oh yes, how
Splitting it
many
into
really
like
parts to it?
3 or 4 different games or something.
I know. Believe me, I know it's a lot, but I think that game companies are doing a pretty good job of releasing their old games in big collections and stuff like that,
Yeah.
and preserving them, and updating the soundtracks, but also leaving the old soundtracks in there. And I think they're doing a pretty decent job of it. My biggest concern is that a lot of music in games um, just isn't that memorable anymore.
Right.
But I mean, you could say that about movies too. Soundtracks in movies definitely haven't been crazy memorable these days. But we've lost our Jerry Goldsmiths, and our we still have our Hans Zimmers, and our John Williams is still around, but he's getting older.
Oh, fingers crossed for
Um,
John Williams. Don't. Yeah. That's right in the
yeah,
heart right
right.
there.
I know he's the best. He's so great. Okay, have you ever played Ori and the Blind Forest?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Uh, that has one of the greatest soundtracks I have ever heard of any game ever. So I mean, there are still some gems out there,
Mm-hmm.
but that game is like a miracle. Like that soundtrack is perfect to the point where it's like every second of it and every moment, it's like it came from this perfect place in the ether and just created itself as this, like it's so perfect for what the images are, for what the story is. And it's one of the only things I think, after getting married, after meeting my wife, I've got, like, because I used to be just an emotional monster. I never cried at anything. After after meeting my wife, um, and I think I got more emotional as a person since then, and getting married and all that.
Sure.
But Ori and the
I'll
Blind
do that too.
Forest, like like Chandler, he just kind of, the floodgates bust open at some point in Friends, and but Ori and the Blind Forest, after playing that game, I get more emotional at things. It's a combination of my wife and Ori and the Blind Forest. Like that, when that
Wow.
music starts up, yeah, it's weird. It's like I can't hear that soundtrack without like tearing up. It's
Do
weird.
they go
Like
hand
I
in
think about
hand?
like
Did you play it around when you met her,
um
or is it just that good?
probably. It is
It's
that
that
good.
good.
It is that good for sure. But the beginning part, where with that music, when you're playing around with, I think it's Kuro. I think, no, it's at I don't know. It's been a little bit.
Yeah, the monkey
I have to
thing
remember.
that you play as.
Yeah, the monkey. The monkey. It's not a monkey, but the creature who dies. It's like your friend, and then dies at the beginning, and then you, Ori, end up dying. But that music, when you're playing around and at the very beginning of the game, and then going up to the point where Ori ends up dying and then resurrecting. It's just like, I just can't. Like I listen to it, and it just breaks me.
Well, that's
It's the power of music. I don't know. I mean, there's more other tracks in that game that do that too.
yeah, yeah,
Um,
yeah. No, I'm trying to call back to my salient point on that one, and I'm not. I'm coming up blank now, but I agree with you that yeah, they're
well, this
th-
there will be a sequel coming out, and I just want to put out the power. The point I'm trying to make is the power of music in video games, the power of music in anything really. It's just like that's how a lot of the nostalgia, but it's also like,
oh man, EverQuest.
You want to still be thinking about something.
That might be a weird one, but every time I start that game up, and I will still sometimes, just like they have like emulated servers out there for it, because this is a very old game as well. Just the music, the intro music, and some of the music in towns and stuff is just so. I may have looked up a totally normal young man. No, actually, he's a very cool guy that's doing this, playing like all of the old music on like a keyboard or something, and I'll just listen to that. So it was MIDI tracks that I'm guessing were just generally sort of throwaway for them at the time, but someone poured their heart and soul into those things, and they're great.
Yeah, and it's amazing how many of those old 8-bit MIDI, kind of like just old school songs, just those melodies can translate to big orchestras. I mean, I hear it all the time. And it's just like there's something else going on there. There's just a magic there that just taps into, 30 years later, you think about it. Final Fantasy 1, Final Fantasy 2, 5, 6.
Limited resources,
5, so
man.
much. 4,
I get
limited resources.
I go back to that. I think that sometimes the greatest magic we get out of things is when people are trying to be creative with what they've got, and that's why
Star Wars.
Yeah, right. Star Wars, or why things like Ori are few and far between these days, because now they have actual orchestras at their fingertips for recording these games, and what you get out of them as a result is maybe is just less memorable most of the time. Maybe it's too complex for our my little mind or something, but it's a lot of the times it doesn't seem as catchy.
Well, yeah, and the guy does the music for Ori. He can do so much. Coker is his last name. I think. Okay. I'm sorry if I'm butchering that. Anyway, what he does with a piano, just a piano with that, it's just that melody is just so great. I mean, it was just him playing it, and when they announced the second Ori game that's coming out, which, by the way, that's one of the biggest games I'm looking forward to at E3 in the next couple of days, is the new Ori game.
Yeah, we'll have to talk about that.
We'll reconvene. But to cap it all off, I just, there's got to be a place in our culture and a place for, we just have to remember the music, and we have to remember the good times. So to say that, we'll remember the good times. Yeah. Game music and Halo and all these things. It's more than just about wasting time at the computer or or in front of the TV. It's about the friendships, the fact that we're even having this podcast here now on June 7th, 2019.
Yeah.
It's just, I'm talking about this stuff, feeling fondly about it. It's, later, 17 years later. It's,
wow.
It's crazy. Yeah. And, you got kids now, I'm married now, and, it's just, you still have time for it. Maybe we should have a war to fight. I don't know. Maybe we should try to save the world, but just being good people and trying to make good stuff and trying to spread the good word. Maybe that's maybe that's enough.
Yeah. I think I'm happy to record my podcast and have some fond memories over Halo.
Agreed. And we'll have even more fond memories later. So I guess that's it. That's it for our episode 1, and hopefully
thank you.
Hopefully we can get back together on a regular basis and keep doing
definitely. it. I know. We'll see if anybody ends up listening to this stuff, but either way, it's nice talking.
Yeah, I know. Indeed, it's just good to reminisce.
Exactly.
Anyway, so that's it for, I guess we're calling it Great Games. So, the Great Games Podcast. Great Games, GLHF, GG.
See you next one.
See ya.